Hey class, so today what we'll be talking about is fractions, decimals, and percents part 2. And we're just getting a little recap and getting a look at what we'll be talking about on Wednesday when you come into class. So to look at this first one, we have 3/4 as a fraction. And we know that 3/4 is equal to decimal point 75, which is 75/100ths. So we know that these two are equal to each other, and there are two different ways to write decimal point 75 or 3/4. And then we also have 75 as a percent. And we know that these three things all have something in common. They're a different way to write each and one of another. So when we look at a problem like this, knowing what we have already learned, how could we change the fraction 4/10 to a percent? Knowing that percent is out of 100, and we want to make our percents out of 100. So looking at this, percents out of 100, this is a nice little reminder. We want to make sure that if we can, get to 100, especially when we're using mental math. You can use a calculator for this, but I would encourage you to try to do this one on your own. So if you could pause the video and look at this one in your notes. Now that you've looked at this one, let's take a look at this diagram down here. And when we look at this diagram, we have 4 out of the 10 spots shaded in, which we know is almost half. So we almost know that's a half, and we know that a half is 50%. So if we know that almost half of this is shaded in, how can we change this by multiplying, or we can also use our calculator to make this easier on us? As we scroll down here, one way is to multiply the bottom by 10 and the top by 10. 10 over 10, remember, equals 1. And if we multiply 1 by a fraction, we get equivalent fractions. So this is what your calculator would be doing if you were to multiply it this way. And so we have 40 over 100, which is 40 parts out of 100 parts. If you look at my arrow drawn up here, you can see that I've drawn that to the 4 shaded parts. Remember, we have 10 whole parts, 4 of them are shaded in. That's where we get our 4 out of 10 class. So I'd like you to try this one on your own and pause the video real quick. How do we get 6/8? I know it looks like something that could be done to that before we start, but not quite sure what it is. If you could pause the video and just write in your notes real quick and try to figure something out. Alright, now that you've paused the video and looked, let's take a look. I'll remove this blue square. 6/8 also equals 3/4. If we divide the top and we divide the bottom, the numerator and the denominator, by 2, we get 3/4. So now that we have that in simplest form, we can look at it in another way. Now many of you might know what 3/4 equals, but I do have a nice diagram down here. If we have 4 rows, as you can see off to the side, if we have 4 rows and 3 of the rows are shaded in, that is where we will get 3 over 4. So our 3 rows comes from these ones right here, and our 4 total rows comes from all the rows combined. 3 out of the 4 rows equals 75%, or 3 divided by 4, because remember the fraction bar, the fraction bar means division. So now that we've looked at those two, what I would like you to do is, now that we're almost done with the video, I'd like you to come up with this problem, knowing what you have learned. Try to convert 3/8 using your calculator to a percent, and come to class ready to discuss how you did this. There's a couple different ways, and I know today that we talked about how to use the fraction key on the calculator, the ABC key. So if you could do that, write in your notes and come to class ready to discuss, we can get a group discussion going. Thank you.